All right, we are going to continue with assignment 5. So I'm going to use the assignment shortcut button here to get to it. And right to where we've been posting. We've posted our sketch. We've posted our line art. We went over in last class flatting and building up kind of base local color. And so this is what I have posted so far. I have my inspiration. I have my requirement, which is the sketch. I tweaked that sketch a little bit just by pulling it around in Photoshop before I digitally inked it. Then I digitally inked it. And you could either digitally ink it in Photoshop, then bring it into Illustrator to image trace and vectorize, and then fix it in Illustrator. Or you could bring your sketch right into Illustrator and use the blob brush to digitally ink it, which is my preference, and then vectorize it. Then you save it as 3 vector formats, as we always do. Those are AI as your working format. So I have that. There's my AI working format. And then also as an EPS and as SVG. So all of those, I don't know why they say assignment 4. I think I typoed that, so I'm going to fix that. But all of those are vector files. Good morning. And the important one is the EPS for what we were doing, because then we set up a brand new file in Adobe Photoshop. You don't want to open the EPS with a raster program, or it will force you to rasterize it. So instead, you open up Photoshop. I don't want to update the app right now. And you say File, New, and we are going to make it 11 by 14 inches by 350 pixels per inch. You put in your name and a description. It's assignment 5. If your illustration is wider than it is tall, which mine is, I would put in 14 wide and 11 tall. But remember, we're bringing in a vector. So I have 14 by 11 by 350. That's great. Then I take my EPS file, I drag and drop it in, I place it just so I have a little bit of space, bless you, and hit return, and it comes in as a smart object that's informed by the external vector file, which means no matter what pixel size I put it into, it will match cleanly. And then this is what we started to build on for our color. So that's how you set it up. Let me open up the one I saved. Then you save that as a PSD file while you're working on it. This is what I'm working on in the other class, just so you can see where we've gotten there is a very similar place. So how does the digital coloring sandwich look? Well, you have white bread on the bottom. You lock that layer, it's blank white. And then you have your black line art that's from the vector on the top. I mark that gray, I lock that as well. And then everything in between is the digital coloring sandwich. The most basic component is that everything is filled in with something. That's called the flatting layer. And then the next is the local color, the color the things actually are. And this can be a finished coloring result, right? And then it's nice to see how it looks on different backgrounds. I like to color, after the flat color, I like to color just on gray because it helps me see highlights and shadows better. And it looks fine on gray. Does not look great on black because you lose all of the outline. And so then what we're also going to learn to do today is to add an offset, right? So that it shows up on any background. Makes it work really well as a spot illustration, as a t-shirt design, that kind of thing. And my advice is, especially when you go to your local flat color, that you are referencing color references that you can steal colors from. You can kind of see how they work. I am still going to build up on this in the other class with shadows. So we are in a similar situation where I have gotten this far with the coloring. And I have the digital coloring sandwich, right? I have the blank white on the bottom. I have the black bread on the top. And then I have the cheese, which is the flatting colors, which just doesn't matter what the colors are. They just all need to be filled in. And now I'm going to start with the local flat color. And I can use my color references as I did in the last video to help make some of those decisions. Now it also helps, like you saw in my other file, to make a copy of your blank white background and then fill it with gray. Edit, fill, 50% gray. That gives us really a clear background, which makes it easy to see what is lighter, what is darker. And it helps when we start building shadows in duotone. And then I'm going to lock that. And then I am also going to duplicate that gray background, even though I'm not quite finished with my local flat color yet. And I'm going to fill that, edit, fill, with black. Why do I use edit, fill instead of the paint bucket? Because using edit, fill, and those three options, white, black, 50% gray, will give you the exact like hex color for black, white, 50% gray. So that's pretty important when it comes to printing, especially if you have a white background. So now you can see that when I have the black background, I lose all of my line art. So this is where putting in an offset really helps. To make an offset, I make a duplicate of my black line art, Command J. I drag it underneath my flatting layer. I don't rasterize it, because keep it as a vector so it will scale up perfectly and cleanly. And then double click, and then you're going to turn on, for a clean offset, a stroke. And under the stroke settings for layer styles, you're going to use pure white, which is as far as you can get in that upper left-hand corner. And then on the outside, because the inside won't do anything, and the center is just kind of making it smaller. So on the outside, and you pick the size. So for this design, I think about that size works well. I'm looking at the little negative space between that star and the tail. I don't want them to touch uncomfortably. I like the little gaps amongst the flames, that all those shapes are interesting. So that is, let's see, 40 pixels. If I do it more, you can see how they start to bleed into each other. And if I do it less, maybe it doesn't feel as powerful, though less also works. So it's maybe a little uncomfortable there. So you pick the size of your offset. But I am going to require that you have an offset of some sort. Now to do a soft edge offset, I would do an outer glow. So outer glow works the same way. You're going to set it to normal mode, opacity 100, white, and then you're going to grow it. Right? And spread it. So that's what's called a soft edged offset. You can have them both like I have right now, or you can just have one or the other. So that's soft edge without a stroke. This is a stroke without an offset or without an outer glow. And then this is a combination of both. What I like about the outer glow is you can also make it more diffused by breaking it up into individual pixels to make it kind of noisy, which gives a nice kind of retro vintage feel. So I have both of those options. I'm just going to turn off the outer glow one because I don't want that right now. Now I am ready to lock my offset, but before I do that, I'm going to rename it all capitals offset. And that should always go on the bottom. And I don't really have a color I usually use for the offset. So I guess I'll make it, yeah, I'll just leave it. But you want to lock it. So in digital coloring, my best tip is only have the layer unlocked that you are coloring on, so that you don't accidentally color somewhere else. I also have to lock this black background. Okay, now I'm going to hit Command S, I'm going to save my work, and now I'm going to continue with the flat coloring. This is the flat local color, the color I want the things to be. And what's so nice about it is I just use the paint bucket, and it's so easy to select colors from my references. I just hold down Option. Like if I want this pink, I want to try that instead, I can. And I can have the color selector here, so if I want a variation on that, I can easily get it. Right? And I can always go backwards, Command Z. I don't love this color. It was the color of the tongue here. But if I hold Option and click it, then I can see where it is in the color spectrum, right? And I can choose to deepen it a little bit, and gray it out like that. I don't love that, so let's try over here. Don't love that. That's closer, but maybe I want it to just warm up a little bit. So I might push it on the slider up. So it's just a little bit more salmony, maybe a little bit brighter. So these are all options. Now flat colors are tough, but it's all about choosing the right flat colors that work for you. Same with this pink. I can make them all the same, but that makes those legs not quite work in dimension. So I'm just going to do a slightly darker version of that same color, then put it in, and maybe a little bit darker, and maybe this leg a little bit lighter and a little bit more saturated. Yeah. And then the hooves, I think I can make the hooves a little bit darker. So if I can't find the color in my references that really work for it, right, I can always try one and then modify it. So move this more towards the purple, since that seems to be kind of what I'm working with. Gray it out a bit. And yeah, that seems to help. And then maybe I want to vary these a bit. So I'll use some of the colors I've already made. What we're doing is building a palette. There we go. And then maybe this darker color, I want to gray it out a little bit more for those hooves. And then maybe play with that there as well. Maybe alternate these. Okay, I'm liking that. Maybe that would work well for inside the skull as well. It's not too bad. Maybe this one. Yeah. And maybe in the nostril too. Even these tiny little, whoops. So that happens when you click on the black accidentally. I want to get right in there. Oh, let's see. So I have that as empty space right now. And I'm okay with that. But if I want to fix that, what I can do is make a new layer and just use my paintbrush and just paint with that color behind it and then merge the two. Command, select them both, and then Command E. And now they're all on the same layer. Actually, yeah, I liked it better when it was open. So I'm going to go back before I did that. Okay. So now I've got my flat colors. And does it work? It works. Could it be better? Yes. Why do I have this blue stripe? I think I was going to try something at the end of the last video. I don't love the blue, but what I do like is maybe alternating this. So this is going to hint at what we can do next with color. Though flat color is a perfectly fine solution, but I'm going to use the paint bucket. I'm on the only layer that's unlocked, right? And I'm going to choose this color, which is kind of an ochre-y color. It's already so close to what I have that I don't think it's worth going beyond that. But then I'm going to choose its shadow value. So this is what's called duotone color. But for now, it's flat color because these are all their own shapes. So I'm going to alternate them. Whoops. Don't click the black. Click in where the colors want to change. Just like an online coloring book. And the idea is it kind of looks like grilled salmon or something. Then I'm going to hold down Option, select that color, and I'm going to make these all match. And it's tough because we got thousands of colors that our eye can see. We actually have millions of colors that we can select within Photoshop. So now this is my advice. Make it so you only see the gray background. Turn off your color reference for a moment. We're going to finish off our flat local color.